Hello everyone, my name is Sam Halcyon and welcome to another of my explainer videos. If you haven't watched my previous video of the ending of the base game of Outer Wilds, I highly recommend you give it a watch, as I will be referencing it quite a bit going forward. And if you're into that kind of stuff, it does delve quite a lot more deeply into the science, the actual science behind Outer Wilds, some of the inspiration that they draw on. You'll find a link in the description down below. But before we go any further, fair warning, this video does contain a lot of spoilers for the endings of both Echoes of the Eye as well as the base game. So if you haven't finished either, hit pause immediately and get to it, as you're missing out on possibly one of the greatest games ever made. So without further ado, let's get on with it. So just a quick recap, the inhabitants of the Stranger, or just the Strangers as I'll call them, came from a neighboring solar system and were actually the first to receive or discover the signal broadcast by the Eye. And like the Nomai, they became completely obsessed with discovering its origin and deciphering its secrets. And even though they lacked warp technology, they were determined to cross the unimaginably vast distance in order to meet the Eye, to the point where they actually strip mined their homeworld of all of its natural resources in order to build a vessel that could carry them across this great expanse. Soon after arriving in the Harthian solar system, the Strangers get to work testing out the effects of contacting the Eye through the use of their vision torch technology. And what they discover chills them to their very core. They witness the complete and utter annihilation of the entire universe, and it fills them with a sense of dread and utter horror. This feeling quickly turns to anger, however, and they set about burning down the temple they erected in reverence of the Eye, and get to work constructing a device in order to contain the signal. Once satisfied that the signal has been contained, the Strangers pull back to a safe distance, activate their cloaking device so as not to draw any unnecessary attention to themselves, and begin the long and arduous task of monitoring the Eye and ensuring that the signal never gets out and is never heard by any other species. Time passes and the Strangers maintain their vigil, but are haunted by a deep sense of loss. They long for the homeworld to which they can never return. They sacrificed absolutely everything to reach the Eye and were greeted by nothing but death and heartbreak. Longing to return to this idyllic way of life, the Strangers set to work building a virtual construct, an exact digital replica of the homeworld they left behind so long ago. Through the use of their artifact technology, the Strangers are able to upload their consciousness to this digital construct, and once again, at long last, feel the wind on their faces as they gaze up at a once very familiar night sky. Not only had the Strangers found a way to return home, they had found the answer to the problem posed by their own mortality. Through uploading their consciousness to the digital construct, they had found a way to maintain their watch indefinitely. Content in this halcyon landscape of their own creation, the Strangers begin to spend less and less time in the real world. One among them, however, begins to realize what his people had become. Nothing more than ghosts, haunting distant memories and old photographs. Leaving their post, they make their way towards the control panel and release the signal out into the void for the briefest of moments before being discovered by their kin, who sentence them to a fate worse than death. Locked inside a vault and submerged to the bottom of a deep reservoir, all memory of the prisoner is scratched out, and he is sentenced to an eternity of darkness and loneliness. Fearing discovery, the Strangers take measures to ensure both the prisoner and the Eye remain hidden forever. A system is installed to move the ship to a safe distance should the star begin to show signs of going supernova. Copies of their historical archives are uploaded to the construct before every remaining slide reel is put to flame. The controls to the vault, as well as the controls for communicating with the signal blocker, are destroyed. And finally, the codes confining the prisoner are burnt. The strangers then step through the carefully concealed entrances to the construct for the last time. Years pass, and still the call released by the prisoner travels ever deeper into the void, eventually reaching an advanced civilization of explorers known as the Nomai. An unquenchable thirst for knowledge and discovery drives the Nomai towards the source, who upon arrival are tragically entangled by the invasive, planet-destroying vines of dark bramble. Stranded and scattered across the solar system, the survivors are forced to adapt to this new way of life. Constructing technological marvels, the Nomai never give up their search for the Eye. But just as their goal is within reach, they are dealt a fatal blow when a passing comet spreads deadly ghost matter throughout the solar system, killing every living thing in its path. Thousands of years pass as the Nomai structures crumble into ruin and the spirits of the strangers endure inside their construct. A new player arrives on the scene. A resourceful and curious species native to the solar system begin taking their first tentative steps into the void, marveling at the mysterious structures left by the Nomai along the way. One hatchling in particular, intrigued by an odd satellite photo, begins picking at the thread that would eventually unravel the strangers' carefully laid plans. Braving danger and darkness, this young explorer slowly begins to learn the secrets of the strangers, their silencing of the Eye, and of something they considered extremely dangerous, which remained locked inside a vault and submerged at the bottom of a deep reservoir. Using hard-earned knowledge, the hatchling learns to exploit flaws within the construct, but only through sacrificing their own life are they able to open the final lock and come face to face with the thing the strangers feared the most. Unable to communicate, the prisoner picks up a vision torch, and the two silently exchange knowledge. The prisoner learns that through them, the Eye was able to call the Nomai to the solar system, of the wonders they constructed in aid of their search, and of their eventual tragic fate. Overcome with emotion, the prisoner cries out before crossing the room, taking a bow, and exiting the stage. Following closely behind, the hatchling discovers footprints leading down to the water's edge. After setting the events of Outer Wilds in motion so many thousands of years ago, the prisoner is finally at peace. Resting close by, the hatchling discovers a parting gift, a memory of two kindred spirits sailing into the sunset, eager to discover what awaits just beyond the horizon. So, at this point of the game, all that's really left is for the player to head on over to Dark Bramble, jump on the Nomai mothership, activate the warp drive, and go and have their audience with the Eye. I've already done a video which delves quite deeply into the bizarre events leading up to the ending of the game. So if you haven't watched that video, I highly recommend you give it a watch. The link is in the descriptor down below. But since recording that video, a lot of new information has come to light, especially with the release of the DLC. So I'd quickly like to chat about that before we close out the video. So the first thing is, it's just a small thing really. It's when we're inside the observatory and we make our way upstairs and we're prompted to observe, then the camera kind of pulls out and we see what I originally thought was the entire universe. It's actually just our entire galaxy. And I know this because during a speed run I watched, one of the devs actually mentioned, oh, this is the part where we go through the forest and we see all of the galaxies. So initially I thought that this was like the inside of a kind of a singularity, and these were all the kind of possible universes that we were seeing all around us. But it turns out it's actually a sort of a visual representative of just our current universe and all of the galaxies within it. And as we walk around through the forest, we see that they're all kind of slowly going out. And this is just representing the eventual heat death of the universe. It's showing the Harthian universe, the current universe that they're in, is right at the end of its life cycle. And all of the galaxies and all of the stars are running out of fuel, and it's the eventual heat death of the universe that we're witnessing in this scene. After this, a couple of odd things happen. We meet ourselves. So this is the game's way of telling us that we're both a conscious observer as well as a quantumly entangled entity. We then see a tree that seems to age backwards, and to me this kind of represents renewal, kind of reversal of time, going back to the beginning, a fresh start to a new universe. This tree then turns into the campfire where we meet Esker and kind of start the process of gathering all of the various characters, all of our friends who we've met throughout the playthrough. The only difference is that with the DLC, the prisoner is now an extra character who you can invite to join you by the fireside. So after going down into their grave and going past the portraits of all the various species, the Nomai, the strangers, and the Harthians, and after retrieving the instrument, we then find the prisoner kind of close to the fireplace, just off to the side. They're unsure whether they should join the group or not because of what their species did. And this is where we start getting a few little bits of information that kind of start to tell us what's actually going on. So the first is, in their dialogue, they say that they're afraid that if the Harthian invites them over to the fireplace, then their fear might taint our mind. And then the second bit of dialogue is that, are you sure you want to remember me? Also, when I first booted up the game to play the DLC, the game told me that my save file was corrupt. So I pretty much had to start from scratch. And because of that, I went straight to the stranger, and I never met Solanum on the Quantum Moon at the end of the game. And because of that, she's not actually present by the fireside. And I thought, wow, that's kind of a cool little detail. But then, once the credits have finished rolling, the post-credits scene, the crickets that usually appear in the bottom right corner actually don't appear at all. And that's when I finally made the connection. Okay, so what's actually happening around the fireside is that it's not just your observations that are creating this new universe. It's actually your memories. And it makes a lot of sense because the game has such a big focus on memories. That's how the Nomai technology works. You're not actually time traveling every time you die. Your future memories are just being sent back to your past self. So it's actually kind of horrific. Like each time you die, you're actually dying for real. So there's a lot of emphasis on memories with the DLC. Again, the slide reels feature very heavily, obviously, and photographs and slide reels are essentially just physical memories in a way. So that's when it all kind of finally made sense. And in my first playthrough, I invited the prisoner over to the campsite, and Solanum obviously wasn't there. So at the end credits, what actually happens is we see like a little sort of druidic circle appear, and that is kind of the new iteration of the strangers. That's kind of a reincarnation of this kind of peaceful species. But then I went back and I finished the game with having met Solanum, and at the end, when the prisoner asked me to invite them over, right at the end credits, we see the druidic circle appear, we see the Nomai insectoid species appear, then we see like a very shadowy, threatening kind of figure appearing between the two, sort of making their way over towards the Nomai with the lantern. And to me, this kind of says that this is sort of the dark ending. So if you invite the prisoner to join you at the fireplace and you've met Solanum, then it sort of spells doom in a way for the new iteration of the Nomai species. So what's actually happening right at the end, when all the characters are gathered together around the campfire and you all start making this final swan song, this final piece of music together, you are the only actual conscious observer present inside the eye. All the other characters gathered around are just kind of representations of your memories of them, of your experiences together. So everything you've observed in the universe of Outer Wilds, all the memories that you've made, are all being combined in this final song, this final piece. And all of the notes, all of the chords, everything that's put into this song are all of your experiences, all of your memories, all of your observations. And that is what combines to eventually create this new universe. And what I find so beautiful about this game, and why I think it's such a perfect send-off to such a masterpiece of a game, is the idea that no one ever really dies. Our loved ones kind of live on in our memories forever. And in the context of this game, they quite literally live on for eternity in the formation of a brand new universe. And just a quick shout out to Entari Adun, who posted in the comments section under my previous video with the idea that the song that gets played right at the end is actually the new signal that gets broadcast in the new universe and acts as a sort of breadcrumb trail for the next traveler to find and follow. I just thought that was really awesome, so thank you so much for sharing. And that is my video for the endings of Outer Wilds as well as Echoes of the Eye. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider hitting that like button. It really helps out the channel. I've also done playthroughs for both Outer Wilds as well as Echoes of the Eye. So if you'd like to watch me have my mind blown in real time over and over again, I'll leave a link for both of those in the descriptor down below. I hope I helped one or two of you out there who were maybe a little confused by the ending, and maybe there were a couple of little Easter eggs in there that you missed. If I've missed anything, please let me know down in the comments. If you have a different opinion, if you think something else happened, let me know, man. Let me know your thoughts. And with that, that is the end of the video. Thanks again, guys, and as always, don't forget to stay awesome, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.